You know when it gets a bit tricky to find those simple shapes within your bird? We've all been there, and the good news is that you can learn how to see these different shapes and how to use them. In my recent video, we looked at negative shapes, all the shapes that surround your bird or subject, opposed to within your bird. Today we are looking at one more aspect that will help you put it all together, a bit like a jigsaw puzzle. If you want to get your birds looking exciting with a bit of movement and life to them, then it's really important to learn about angles or structure. Angles help with movement, proportions, different poses, the head and beak, and even locating and plotting down different colorings and features. We need to learn how to see, not just look, and then find a way of transferring what we see to the paper. It may not be very easy at first, but you can do this. There's a few methods of training your eyes to simplify your subject that I know of, like squinting. This is when you look through your eyelashes, details tend to disappear, and all you're left with is larger shapes, usually just light, medium, or dark. The next thing is to look at your bird as an abstract shape, to forget that it's a bird, but rather just a funny shape. You can train your eyes by turning it upside down. Turning it upside down really resets your brain to help you think as an artist. Or you can use your phone to help you look at your photo in an abstract way by using an app, for instance, Notanizer. It really helps you see your subject in numerous different ways through black and white shapes. And this is the foundation of everything. So today we'll be drawing and painting a lovely Eastern Spinebill, incorporating shapes and the all-important angles. Our Spinebill is all bent over today as he's feasting his eyes on the juicy nectar in the red bottle brush in front of him. Let's see how we can capture him in his awkward stance. The most obvious angle here is this one, between his chest and his head. And here's a quick trick you can use to get it just right. Take a small piece of paper with at least one straight edge and place it on one side, either on the neck or chest, and fold it in line with the other. Look at that. You can now transfer that to your paper. Now we need to look closely and see what else we can see. To do this, we need to pick one point to start from. I think the tip here between the neck and chest would be ideal. Now look to see how that point relates to anything else within the bird. Maybe the first thing I see is how the eye seems to be in line with the chest. That's very handy. Then I see the marking on his head. It doesn't matter about the curves at this stage, just the overall location. The next point I can see is the top tip on his back. These are all very important points and will really help us. I'm scanning and looking, and what am I looking for? I'm looking for lines, tips, corners, curves, and all in relation to my initial starting point between the neck and the chest. For now, I can see the line of the grey feathers, but it doesn't relate to anything yet, so I'll give it a miss for now. I look at that top left-hand point and notice the middle of the bird looks a bit like a square. Squares are good. They're easy to work with. And there's a curve up top, but that can easily be placed in later after I've placed my square. This certainly looks like a triangle, even though it's a little bit in and out of the triangle. And the same goes for this. This is a nice triangle with a hump on the top. And for the beak, well, I could cut it off there and go in like this. Now, looking at the back end, so this could be a triangle. Yes, it could, and it is. But I'm trying to make everything work together. So I'm thinking this little foot actually comes out. So from that point to this point, it's still a little bit straight. And then I could see this whole thing as a triangle,
or this as a triangle.
The only thing that matters is what you see as a triangle or something else.
You see how many options there are? There's a lot of options. So you look at these options and you decide on which is the easiest to replicate.
Once I have a fair few of my structural lines in, I can choose other points to relate to each other.
But you know what else I can see? I can see that looking at these corners here and at the tip of this particular shape in here, they seem to be lined up, which is very, very handy. So let's put in this square, just a simple square. See, I'm not over fussing with anything. That was this one. Now, we've already established we've got this line there. So if I put my piece of paper on a line that we already have and look for another angle like this one here, I can transfer this over. So I line it up with the line that I've already got, and I now have this. I also have this. So I can now see that there's my triangle. So if I wasn't sure where to go here around this area,
then this guide through the eye will be very useful.
but you know what else I can see? I can see that if I was to pull a line right through the eye down to this bottom bit, do you see how it all comes together when you include all the possible angles and shapes that you can, because they all help each other. So I'm going to check this angle out now, and I'll put a piece of paper there and fold it like that. All right, and now let's put that down. Looking good. And now if I look at all this here, I can see that the tip of the beak kind of lines up with where the tip of the foot is. And mark the spot. The beak is rounded a bit, so it goes a bit like this. Coming back to all this, what if we were to put in the diagonals through the square? So looking at this shape of the beige coloured feathers, we can see that there's a middle point here in the tummy. It's going to end here, and they go straight up. They come down and they join up with that straight line just in there. So we have it here, up and down to the middle. And then we can extend the back feathers as a triangle, which again, if you look at this, it's nearly a right angle to the center line. So all these clues are there for you. So there's that center line, and it's kind of like a right angle, and then we can just join those two up. The clues are everywhere. Then we can cut across. Let's do that. And there's so many different ways of doing this, but this shape here of the foot is underneath, and the tail coverts, and they come up like that. Again, you could choose to say this is a triangle, like that, in which case I can rub out what I have. The name of the game is to find something easy. So there's this triangle, and then all I have to do is put a little negative space in there, put that out there, and there's the foot. Whichever way you go, it's going to work out. And then this is more or less a right angle. So I'm just going to do that with this line here. And for now, let's just put that shape in. We better put the feet in. So here, and then put a little triangle on the end of the feet and the toes, and also up here. And now we can refine our little spine bill. And what we'll do is we'll just rub out a few lines at a time. So let's come under the chin here. It's kind of straight, but it's a little bit softer than straight. And we can see that the beak comes in a bit like that. And now we looked at the negative shape. So see this, and we try to replicate that angle. And we will continue up just above the eye. See the angle just in there? And now what do we have? Oops. See how quickly you can get lost if you rub out the lines. They are really there to help. There's the white part of the neck, and this. It's like drawing in those squares that we used to do as kids. And now looking at this area here, the black comes like this, and then a bit of a curve. Now if I remove this line, there's a dip under, and it goes over a bit. And there's the roundness of the back, which is just a little bit like this. And now let's have a look at the tummy to see if it's really as straight as that. It's a softer straight line, if that makes sense. Now we've got the white part here and the black part in here. Say, what does that look like? It looks like a little thing with a point in like that. So I'm going to colour this in dark.
And the rest of the head. And I noticed that he's a bit lighter on top, and he has a little bit of a shadowed area underneath the light part, so I might as well put that in.
And then here we say to ourselves, what does that look like? Well, I think it looks like a cursive V. So when you use your pencil or your finger and go over that line, you're actually muscle training to say, right, I'm going to repeat that line, which is now. So I come in and that line's already there. And we have our feathers. Just underneath that halfway line is where one row of feathers is, and this is where the other is. So if I just go like that, sometimes the lines get in the way, but you just have to, you can put them back, you can take them out, but they really, really do help. There's the wing, undertail little feathers. It's nearly all there, so let's just get rid of a lot of these structural lines. When I look at this line and the tip, I can see how the curve goes. It goes a bit like from that tip, it's a bit like that. So that means I know to move that little tip just forward a bit. And then it goes down. I can also see my beak is a little bit fat, but when you compare to the beak, how it lines up with the eye, but it's just within the eye. So if there's my eye, then the beak should be a bit like that. And that looks much better for the spine bill that I know. And the curve here goes in like that. If you're not sure about the feet, just look at the negative spaces. So see the little triangle in between the toes? Just focus on that. And then that means that this one is a bit darker here. When you combine these methods of constructing a bird, it just gets easier and easier, but it does take practice. I mean, as you know, I've been drawing and painting birds for 25 years, and it's just a lot of practice. And then I'll figure out a new way to approach them because I've just been playing around. So I've been using an 8B pencil, which as you can see is pretty messy. But if I try to remove some of this graphite, we can still put a little bit of colour on. But look, it even makes your rubber very dirty. All that graphite. I'm using a number 2 Paulina Bright mop brush, and I'm going to add a little bit of yellow ochre, a smidgen of burnt sienna, not over mix them, but just pick them both up and come into the tummy area. And I'm going to leave a little bit of white there. I pick up this yellow ochre and I just pick up a smidgen of raw umber, put it over the top here, and then as I get closer to the head, I'll add a bit more burnt sienna and a bit more of the raw umber just coming in here. There we go. Then a bit on the head. And for the shine on his wings, I'm going for some lavender. Just putting it straight in there, across the beak there. Just a few little drops in there. And also on top of the head. In fact, I'm going to put it over the whole dark area and then come in with more dark on top. Just like that, and I'll do his beak as well. And now, if I get some really creamy, really thick and creamy raw umber with a little bit of neutral tint to it, I can put in some of those. Shadow under those wings there. Now even on his head, coming in with the darks, washing my brush and drying it. And I can lift out some of this where I've already put in, there's a bit of light under here. On his throat area, he has this ochre bit that's a bit darker down below, so a bit of that and a little bit of raw umber and even a tiny little bit of the neutral tint down the bottom. Now, see how it's rounded, but I'm just painting little bits like that to suggest some of the feathers still coming out. There's always a little bit of negative painting wherever you go, and it really, really does help to make all the difference. And now with all the colours that I have, I'm just putting the branch in, even with a bit of lavender, a bit of brown, a bit of the neutral. And then when this is still wet, but if I take creamy paint, it has to be creamier than the rest, then I can create some shadows with this. That's the key. It's got to be thicker than what you have. And a little bit of lavender down here just to suggest some of the shadows. And maybe down under here, under the tail. And there we have it. Oh, better not forget some messy little feathers around here. Oh, and of course he has a red eye with the watercolour pencil. Have a watercolour pencil here. Going to leave a little white gap. I'm dipping it in water. There we have it. And I'll give the centre of his eye just a little bit of nostril and a shadow. And our little creature has come to life.
If you'd like to see how to do the positive and negative shapes, see these videos here and get a hang of all three methods and your birds will change forever.